Thank you for tuning in to watch or to listen to this message today. Wherever you are, at home, in your car, on your computer, on your phone, we're just excited that you're spending time with us. We are on a mission here at CRB to lead people to know and love Jesus. And so if you call this place your home, I encourage you to visit our Give page on our website, where you can find a few easy ways to faithfully support God's work here at the church, financially, through online giving. At CRB, we believe that love will save the world, and the best place to do that is in the local church. So if you live in San Diego or if you're visiting the area, we just want to invite you to come join us on a weekend, come hang out with us, and be a part of the family here. Enjoy the message.
Man, it's a privilege for me to be back here at CRB. If you're new, welcome. Glad you're here. I'll just tell you this. It's true. Jared, I appreciate you saying you're excited that we're here. There is nobody more excited in the building than me and my wife, who's sitting right over here, to be here today, because as Jared told you, we're from Phoenix. And yeah, we left there 3 days ago. And we drove 5 hours and the temperature dropped by 50 degrees, no lie. It was 120 when we left. When we pulled in, it was 70 degrees here. The temperature dropped 50 degrees in 5 hours, which is a beautiful thing. We all came together. Yeah, you can clap for that, by the way. That's awesome. We're thrilled to be here. When I say we, my whole family's here at the service today, so you're our people, I guess. We like you at the 10 o'clock service. This is my family. This is our clan right here. That's my wife, Jen, our 4 kids, our son, Talon, Gentry, they're 10 and 8. They're the bigs. We call them the bigs. We have the bigs and the littles. They're 10 and 8, and then our littles, Case in there at the bottom and Nixon there at the top. They're 3 and 1, and we have our hands full. And 4 kids, I'll just tell you this, does not qualify me to lead this series. And teaching this series, it actually qualifies me for nothing other than being a survivor. That's all we're doing right now. So we're trying to survive in life, but we're having a ball doing it. We love being together as a family. It's a treat. For us to be over here. I want to start by today, I don't know what your faith background is, your church background, but I want to be up front. I have a very specific persuasion. As I looked at the scriptures, as I've personally developed a belief system around parenting, I come today with a bit of presupposition, and I want to be up front about, for me, what's sort of a guiding principle of what I believe the role of every parent is. And I want to lay that out in front, and it's not because you have to adopt this or you have to believe this, but I want you to know sort of the perspective I'm coming from. And we're going to put this up on the screen. I believe that the role of the parent is to lead those that God has entrusted to you back to Him. That our role, that mine and Jen, our role is to lead the kids that God has entrusted to us for the season He's entrusted to them to us, the 7,000 days, if you will, that they've been entrusted to us to ultimately steward those days and ultimately lead them back to Him, because they're leaving us at some point. And if you don't know this, you need to realize your kids are not yours. They've been entrusted to you for a season. Now, I realize I just got myself in trouble with all the mamas who are going, no, those babies are mine. Like they're my kids, and I understand that. But one day you're going to discover, in fact, some of you have already discovered this. There's one day that your kids are going to leave your care. They're going to leave your home. And what you do in those 7,000 days will become evident on the other side of that. Now, some of that you can't control, but some of it you can control. And I want to talk today about something that is so important, that I discovered it along with in this season of trying to discover and realize the impact of one day, hey, they're not going to be with us. One day, they're not going to be a part of our family. One day, even my little girl's going to grow up. As a matter of fact, a few years ago, when my daughter was 3, she's 8 now, we went to our first daddy-daughter dance, and I'll never forget it. I don't think she'll ever forget it. I think she was just old enough to remember it, but she was 3. She got all dressed up. Here's a picture of my daughter. I think this was actually when she was 5. This was like our 3rd one, right, Jen? So this is when she was 5. I couldn't find the other pictures quick enough of when she was 3 or 4. But when she was 3, I took her to her first daddy-daughters. We get all dressed up. I wear a tux. My wife buys her a new dress. We go do this thing. So we started when she was 3, and I'll never forget, I took her. We went to this, they were having this, she called it the Princess Ball. So now everything's the Princess Ball. We've been calling it the Princess Ball since then, but she was 3. We were going to downtown Atlanta. We lived in Atlanta at the time. We were going into downtown Atlanta to this really cool new warehouse district part of the city where they do some of the best events. Chick-fil-A sponsoring the event. So this is an amazing event. It's resourced incredibly well. It wasn't a cheap ticket, but we show up and they literally have real Clydesdale horses and a drawn carriage that you can get your picture taken in. They have a photo booth and face painting and dancing all night long and cupcakes and bubbles. And I mean, it is over the top. And I remember my daughter's like, Daddy, I want to stay till the very end. Can we stay to the very end? I was like, we can stay as long as you want. Well, the event's going until 9. She's only 3. I'm like, she's not going to make it. At 9:15, as they're trying to kick us out of there, she's still going strong. Dancing on the dance floor, we're dancing together, and we just had an amazing time. So we're kind of like, I'm carrying her out of there. I plop her in her car seat, I buckle her in, I get in the car as we're pulling out of the parking lot. She said, Daddy, that was so fun. Thank you so much. Can we do it again next year? I was like, of course we can do it again next year. She goes, well, what about the year after that? She's 3. I said, we can do it the year after that. She said, well, what about the year after that? I said, we can do it the year after that. She said, well, what about when I'm 16? I said, Gentry, when you're 16, if you still want to go to the Princess Ball with your daddy, I would love to take you to the Princess Ball. She said, Daddy, hold on, don't clap yet. This gets better. She says, Daddy, what about when I get married? I said, baby, you're never getting married, so don't worry about that. That ain't happening. That is not happening. She concluded it with, Dad, but what about when I'm 80? I was like, if I'm still alive and you're 80 and you want to go to the Princess Ball. Here's the thing, as we're driving up, the road is Georgia 400, so we're driving up 400, or the 400 as you'd call it on the West Coast. So we're driving up the 400. She's asleep in the back seat. She fell asleep 5 minutes into our ride. We had a pop station on the radio. She wanted to listen to a certain song. Anyway, a song came on that was sort of unthinkable for me. The song 15 by Taylor Swift comes on the radio. And it's a song about a little girl who's growing up and dealing with normal things in life. And literally, at this time in my life, I'm in my late 30s. I'm in the car, not by myself, but I have my daughter who's asleep in the back seat. And I'm bawling, driving on the highway, headed home that night, which is not something you really want to admit when you're listening to a Taylor Swift song in front of a bunch of people. But I'm becoming secure. I'm not secure yet, but this is part of my therapy, so I'm becoming secure. The reality is I realized, like, these days are coming to an end. At some point, I mean, I hope they last a long time. She's 8 now, it's still going strong. My wife can tell you she still looks forward to the next Princess Ball every time it comes. We just went to one recently, but those days are coming to an end, and I know they're coming to an end. But the question is, what will I do in the days in between now and then? And how can I steward her desire for me to be engaged and involved and present in her life in this season? And that's really the question for all of us. Whether you have kids at home or whether you're a grandparent, you're an aunt and uncle, whether you're a mentor to kids, whether you invest in kids, whether you're a teacher, it's what do we do with the next generation when the generation's been entrusted to us? And I want to share with you something today that was modeled for me powerfully by my dad in my life. I'll tell you a little bit more about him in a minute, but was modeled for me powerfully, but makes all the difference. And here's the thing, this is rooted in the truth in Scripture. See, what you may or may not know is God wants as much or more for your kids than you want for them. He dreams more for your kids than you dream for your kids. He dreams more for the next generation than we dream for the next generation. In fact, that's why he sent his son. Not just for you and for me, but for them. As a matter of fact, I want you to read this through a different lens. Some of you may have heard this verse before, but Jesus, when he was talking about why he came, this is what he said. He said in John 10:10, I have come that they may have life and have it to the full, that they could experience an abundant life, the life I intended for them, the life I dreamed up for them when I dreamed up their life, that they'd experience that sort of life, a thriving life, a life without limits, but a life that is the life that's best for them, that is the most for them in life. So here's the good news, is God wants what you want for your kids. He wants what you want for your grandkids. He wants for the next generation what many of us want for the next generation. And many of us, we made some mistakes along the way. You would say part of what you want to do is you want to rescue your kids from making the same mistakes you did. You want to steer them away from that. And you want to steer them towards the best things in life. You want to steer them away from the things that sort of led to some of your greatest regrets or some of your greatest downfalls in life. And here's the thing. Jesus came for that very reason, so that we could all experience that. The Apostle Paul in the New Testament, he writes specifically about how that's possible, how we sort of latch onto that and experience that sort of life. But before we get to that, here's the thing. The Apostle Paul assumes something that's very different today than it was in the world when he was writing. The 21st century, I don't need to tell you, is very different than life was in the first century. But here's the thing, in the last 50 or 60 years, a value has eroded that even just 50 or 60 years ago was way more prevalent in our society. And something has changed and faded in our world way more in the last 50 or 60 years than it did the previous 20 centuries. And I want to talk a little bit about that because it has to do with technology. And now here's the thing. If you're here and you're in your 20s or you're somewhere south of 42, which is how old I am, if you're somewhere south of that, you're thinking I'm against technology. And I just want you to know there's no bigger believer in technology than me. I love technology. My life would tell you that gets me in trouble sometimes, too much technology. But I love technology. I don't have a problem with technology. I'm not saying we should get rid of technology. We need to change technology. But technology, the advancement specifically in technology, has had significant influence on our world. And before we talk about what the Apostle Paul says about how we lead the next generation to engage that sort of thriving life that Jesus came to make possible, I think we need to understand and acknowledge a little bit of what we're up against and the opportunity that's created for us in what he's saying we ought to do to impact the next generation. 4 quick observations about advancements in technology. First is this. Technology, I think we'd all agree, it's revolutionized our efficiency. It's made the world way more efficient. You can accomplish a lot more, a lot quicker. We can go further, faster because of technology, and we do. In our world and advancement, it's growing so quickly. As a matter of fact, interestingly enough, in the 1960s, this is really accelerated over the last 50 or 60 years. In the 1960s, the Senate commissioned a group of people to do a study about the impact, because technology was advancing so quickly. Not just, telephone, television, all sorts of technology. The internet was being dreamed up. Al Gore hadn't invented it yet, but it was coming. And the thing is, I'm sorry if that offended somebody, but he claimed it on his own. So, but we saw some incredible advances in technology, and they were trying to be responsible and going, hey, what does this mean for us? What does this mean for us as a society and a country? So they commissioned this study, and literally the commission came back, and Time Magazine recently wrote an article about this, recounting this study. And this is what their findings was. They said, basically, here's what's gonna happen. In the next 20 to 30 years, this is in 1960, the next 20 to 30 years, technology is gonna advance so fast that we're gonna be confronted with a problem, and people are either gonna have to start working less hours, or they're gonna have to retire earlier, because we're gonna become so efficient that people's careers are gonna get eaten up by technology. And here's what's gonna happen. The real problem we're gonna have to deal with is, the great challenge we're gonna experience is, what to do with all of our excess time. Literally, that was the conclusion of this commission, this expensive study that was done for the Senate of the United States. And here's the thing, we know that's exactly the opposite of what happened. See, what actually happened was that this progress in this revolutionized efficiency, it actually eroded the boundaries in our lives. And it did make us more profitable, but it made our work more portable. And what that did was it made it easier for us to take our work wherever we went, whenever we were needed to be reached. And it made our pace unsustainable. And not only that, it made the quality of life for many of us less desirable. It made certain careers less desirable. Now, you may be in this room, and there's probably a small percentage of you that work a 9-to-5 job, and when you leave your job, you leave it at work. There's nothing you can do. If somebody tried to reach you, it's like there's nothing you can really do from home. But my guess is most of you, your career involves things you can do all the time. Because of a device, you're reachable at any time. You're receiving email all the time. You feel pressure to stay connected with and respond to people quicker. It's not like you have the same boundaries you had or you would have had a few decades ago just in our world. And that's changed the nature of the way you live life and the way you experience life at home and at work. The second thing is that this is compressed time and space. Nowhere have I experienced this more in my life, and this may make you think I'm really old, some of you, but 30 years ago, my parents went on a trip to Africa. And when they went to Africa, they went on a 3-week trip to Africa because of the way they had to travel. They had to take several planes to trains and buses and eventually get the places they wanted to go. And during that period of time, my grandmother stayed with us. We only got to speak with them one time on their whole trip. And believe it or not, this is going to blow some of your minds. When we talked to them, we could not see them when we were talking to them. I know it's hard to fathom, but we couldn't see them. We just heard their voices through a thing we had to hold that was actually connected to a cord that connected to the wall. Like, we couldn't walk anywhere we wanted. And we talked to them on the phone, and we had to talk to them for a very short period of time because it was so expensive. And it was like just this really short conversation in a 3-week period of time. This is hilarious because just this last year, about a year ago, a little less than a year ago, some friends of ours who are really close, they don't have children of their own. They treated our kids like their kids. My kids call them Uncle Kelly and Aunt Danlin. They moved to Uganda. And they moved there to be a part of a mission. And it was a big deal for us because we're close with them. We vacation with them. We spend a lot of time with them. And we knew this was going to create some distance in their relationship with us and with our kids. We had already moved across the country, but they're moving across the world. And the amazing thing is, though, we see them all the time. We're able to FaceTime them. When they first moved into their new house, they took us on a tour of their new house. And I've seen their pictures of their cars and their dogs and their ministry and what they're doing. And we're able to keep up with them on a regular basis in an extraordinary way. But it's different. It's different than being with them, and we see how that distance is changing the nature of their relationship with our kids, yet we still feel close to them. And that's because this compression of time and space has created an illusion of closeness for us. It's not real closeness in relationship. There's an illusion of closeness that this has created in our world. It's just another implication. And again, I'm not saying we should get rid of the technology, that there isn't good things about that compression of time and space, but it has created an illusion of closeness in our relationships. The third observation is that there's an innovation in relating, and many of you know this. This advancement in technology has innovated the way we relate. Not only that, it's innovated the way communities form. I want to say it's about 10 to 15 years ago, when television, media, marketing all began to change, and it all began to change towards trying to create affinity groups, like you being connected to and a part of a certain group, or you identify with a certain group of people that are either through a television show or through a news network, and they really tried to break down the fourth wall. Reality TV did this in some significant ways. They've begun to do this more even through like cooking shows, and HGTV is amazing at this. In fact, the illustration of that is that some of you, if you saw Chip and Joanna Gaines on the street, you would think you're friends, and you could invite them to sit down and have coffee, and they would like to help you with your home project because you know them, right? You know their story, you know all about them, you know their skill set, and you kind of identify with them as people. It's amazing. We do this also with morning shows. As a matter of fact, my wife came to me a while back, and this is always a dangerous thing. I didn't know what I was getting to, but she said, "Hey, I have a confession." I was like, "Oh no, what does that mean?" Like that's not exactly what you want to hear. She said, "Well, you get up and go to work early, and I just want you to know, like I've sort of fallen out of touch a little bit. Don't feel as connected to the Today Show, and I've started watching Good Morning America." I was like, "You what?" I mean, like, she's thinking, yeah, she said, ever since Katie left the show, and I was like, Katie Couric, like their first name basis, I haven't really connected, Meredith and Savannah, I don't really connect with them. I'm thinking, yeah, but what about Matt and Al and Natalie? And these are our people. And Carson's on the show now, and he's connected to our other people. And what would Blake and Adam from The Voice, what would they think if we give up on Carson and everybody in the Today Show? And it's sort of silly, but this is the way the conversation went, jokingly, but we have such an affinity. We feel like we get to know, and so much of social media and actual media and the world we live in and products that we buy and organizations, they've sort of created these affinity communities, and it's revolutionizing the way we relate to the world around us. Social media has had the biggest impact on this. Some of you know this. Social media, the average person has 5 social media accounts. They check their phone 76 times a day. That's average. Social media accounts for 1/3 of all internet usage. This way of relating in our world has been incredibly innovative. But it's created these artificial communities where people are connected with an affinity group of people that they don't actually have real relationships with, but they feel deeply connected to these communities of people. It's another way technology has impacted our world. And then the last one is individualization, or another word you could use for this is customization. And this has happened in a lot of different ways. This is the iWorld. Apple's done an incredible job at really helping you customize your devices and make something that you really want and cater towards you. It's why everything's your iPhone, your iPad, your iWatch, your iWorld. You know, you can kind of create this world that's around you. On-demand television, Netflix. Many of you have gotten rid of your cable television and you use Hulu and other services to get just what you want. This is the way the world works. It's technology has created a way for you to individualize or customize the world to you. But this has lots of implications. In fact, it's changed the way as a world we behave in terms of being consumers. It's changed the game. Look at this. About 10 years ago, 2006, there are some bedrock companies in our world that had astonishing market values. Sears, JCPenney. I mean, these are like bedrock companies in our world and in our society. In 2006, they had these massive valuations of these companies. Just 10 years later, check this out, 10 years later in 2016, the market values of these companies have dropped significantly. In just one decade, Sears dropped, their value of the company dropped by 96%. Was that a leadership issue? You know, what happened in their world? You know, JCPenney's dropping 86%, Kohl's 64%, Target's sort of hanging in there, but it's one of the only ones, Macy's even, dropped by their value by over half. Does anybody have any idea why that is? Yeah, one word, I heard it. Anybody else know? One word, it's Amazon. Yeah, we all love Amazon, don't we? Now, some of you think I'm about to hate on Amazon. I'm not going to hate on Amazon. We love Amazon. We are Amazon people. We are Amazon Prime people. Not just Amazon Prime people. We are Prime Now people. If you don't know Prime Now will change your life. We're available customers in Prime Now right now, and we have little kids, so milk disappears in our house. And in 1 hour, Prime Now can rescue our world by delivering milk to our doorstep. It's amazing. So I'm not hating on Amazon, but you don't understand the impact Amazon has had, even if you're not an Amazon customer. Amazon is changing our world. In 2006, Amazon's value was $17.5 billion. In 2016, Amazon's value, nearly $56 billion. Now, I'm not here just to laud the success of Amazon. Think about this. That has decreased the number of human interactions in our world by the multi-billions over the last decade. Now, I don't even know what all the implications are of that. I'm not sure the best sociologist could tell you all the implications, but we're gonna find out. That is impacting our world in a significant way. Instead of showing up at a store, making new relationships, using relational skills, towing our kids along with us, them learning to do that and figure that out, running into people in our community that we know, developing and forging new relationships and deepening those relationships and learning how to interact with people that we know and people that we don't know. No longer are we doing that as much. In fact, most of us sat at home in our pajamas and ordered all of our Christmas presents this last year and loved it, didn't we? Because we didn't have to go to 25 different places, and it was efficient, it was quick, we got it all done. But you missed out on thousands of hours of human interactions. And that has an impact in our world. In fact, it has a significant impact. It makes what the Apostle Paul is about to tell us the key to our next generation experiencing thriving life in Jesus so incredibly difficult. But it creates such an extraordinary opportunity for us to step in that gap. Look at Colossians chapter 3. Colossians chapter 3, this is what the Apostle Paul says. He says here, and when he's talking about here in the body of Christ, or here in the church, among the followers of Jesus, here, there's no Jew, there's no Gentile or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave or free. I'll just pause real quick. Basically what he's saying is, it doesn't matter where you've been. It doesn't matter what you grew up believing. It doesn't matter what you've done, that none of that is really important anymore. None of that is more definitive of you than this, that Christ is all, and Christ is in all. That for those of you who've placed your faith in Jesus, the most definitive thing about you now, the thing that's most common, that's most true about you, and that we all have most in common, is that we have the life of Christ in us. Now, if you're here today, you wouldn't call yourself a Jesus follower. This is something that we believe the New Testament teaches. In fact, not only the Apostle Paul taught this, this is what Jesus taught. In fact, that's why he said he came. He came because his presence with us was better. But when he left, he said, listen, the reason I'm leaving is because it's better if I leave. Because when I leave, I'm going to send my Spirit, and his presence is going to be in you. And his presence is going to go with you wherever you go. Now think about this. This is so powerful. If the life of Christ is in you and the life of Christ is in me, when we're present with one another, when we're present with people, when we're present with our kids, the next generation, we don't just show up. The powerful, life-changing, life-transformational life of Jesus shows up in and through us when we show up. That's powerful. You may not feel like that. You may feel like, well, I'm not perfect. I don't do a great job. That's okay. The life of Christ is in you when you show up. When you decide to be with and to be present with your family and with your friends, with people around you. See, this is powerful in the next generation, but this is powerful in general. Here's why. Most of us, your life, if you've never done a life map, it's a really simple thing to do. There's ways to do this in really sophisticated ways, but a really simple way to do a life map, and this is just a way to sort of understand or tell your story. A lot of times people do this. Some of you may have done this as you told your story in your small group. If you're in a small group or you're connected with a group of people, here's the idea, is most of our lives look something like this, that we've experienced some different things in life. Life has its ups and downs, and some of us, we've experienced plus 10 moments in life. You got some moments in life that are, man, these were like the mountaintops experiences, and then we all have some things that are down here. Maybe you have some minus 10, or maybe you just have some minus 7 or 8 moments in life, and these peaks and valleys are the ways we tell our story, but there's all sorts of moments in between. But the reality is that the most powerful moments that shape our story are these moments at the extremes. And we not only identify with those moments, but who was with us in those moments. And the truth is these are the moments, especially down here, these are the most powerful moments when the life of Christ makes a significant impact in our lives. Did you know that not only psychologically and sociologically, but scientifically, that there's chemicals released in your body in these minus 10 and these plus 10 moments, these peaks and valleys of life that create attachment. They create significant change and bonding and shaping to our lives. And this is true of your kids. They're living a story, and there's plus 10s and minus 10 moments, and they're living a story where they're experiencing different things. And when you show up, you bring the life of Christ with you. And one of the things they bond to, especially in these difficult moments down here, they experience the life of Christ, the grace and mercy and hope and healing of Jesus in a way they just don't any other way. And it happens by you showing up in those moments of their lives. It happens when you refuse to shy away. It happens when you choose not to be an absent parent. It's not about being a helicopter parent. It's about showing up and being there with them when they need you the most. The Apostle Paul, he goes on, he says, look, since you have the life of Christ in you, therefore, and by the way, when you read the Bible, if you ever run to the word therefore, you should ask yourself, what is the therefore? Therefore. That's the point. He's saying, therefore, okay, I just read something that was important. This is an indication. Okay, since I have the life of Christ in me, this is what you should do. As God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves. This is what's true about you. This is what you should put on, because this is who the life of Christ is. This is how you should act. You should clothe yourselves with compassion and kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any one of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you, and over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Here's what the Apostle Paul's saying. What's true of you now is that you have the life of Christ in you. That's how you're defined. That's how you're seen by your Heavenly Father. And because of what He's done for you, because of the way He's poured into you, because of the way He's forgiven you, the grace He's shown to you, the mercy He's shown you, you should take that and don't just hold on to that yourself. you need to take that and receive that and show up and be present for other people and be with them. And when you do, you're not gonna be perfect. In fact, that's one of the things I loved about what Jared talked about last week. If you weren't here, he talked about you're never gonna be a perfect family. There is no perfect family. That's a misnomer. You're never gonna be perfect, but you can be present. And as a follower of Jesus, when you're present, the life-changing power of Jesus is present with you and in you when you show up. And all of these things are possible for you in terms of relating and shepherding and pouring into the next generation. You see, what's different in our world than in the first century world is they viewed themselves first as tribes and as clans, as a community of people, instead of as individuals. What was best for the tribe or the family or the clan or the community was put ahead of what was best for the individual. For the first time in our history, our entire world is changing in a way that we're saying, no, the community is not important. The individual is what's most important. And technology has helped us to accelerate that at a rate that I'm not sure is sustainable for us as a culture. Now, we're gonna adapt, we're gonna change. There's been significant changes in our culture in all different manner of periods of time. But this is so significant because just in the last half a century, our world, our culture has changed more than it had in the previous 20 centuries combined. And this will have some significance, but it creates an opportunity for you and for me. It creates just the information itself. I'll just tell you, when I first began to discover some of this and learn from some friends of mine, it began to bother me, but it bothered me in a good way. In fact, part of the reason I'm sharing it with you today is because I hope you leave here and it bothers you. That it bothers you in a good way. And you go, that is something I need to think about. That is something I need to pay attention to. As it relates to my kids and the next generation and my grandkids, maybe I'm not engaged in that world of technology as much, but this is their world and this is their future. Here's what this means. As our whole flow of our culture moves in another direction, it may be that you offer to them something they don't find anywhere else. Somebody who's interested in just showing up in their life and being present with them. Not to get anything done, not to be in the know, not to find more information, not to gain more followers, not to climb a ladder, not to feel better about yourself, but to be with them and to be for them. See, the truth is, and this is sort of the bottom line today, is being with is better. It's greater than doing for. As parents, as grandparents, even as mentors of people who are pouring in the next generation, we spend a lot of energy doing for, don't we? I mean, some of you, you're trying to climb a ladder, you're trying to make more money, you're trying to provide more, you want your kids to have the best education, to be on the best team, to get the best training, to get the best coaching, to be afforded with the best opportunities. And you're working really, really hard, and you're out there, and moms, your moms and dads, some of you are working, you're both working, some of you are working multiple jobs. You're doing so many things for your kids to try to afford them these incredible opportunities in the future. But maybe the most important thing you could do is just show up and be with them. Because the most powerful thing you have to offer them is in you. And it doesn't show up when you text them, or you tweet them, or you Facebook message them, or you Instagram post about them. It only happens when you show up and you choose to be fully present with them. That's how this changes. That's how it changes their world and their life. And here's what you need to know. You may be the anomaly in their world. It may feel awkward at first. It may feel like they don't even want you to be there. But you need to know, if you don't show up, somebody else will. Something else will fill in that gap in their life. And it may or may not be something that leads them towards that thriving life that Jesus came to make possible for you and for them. So, let me ask you, how are you showing up? What's your plan to show up in the lives of your kids? What's your plan to show up and prioritize being in the lives of your grandkids? What's your plan for showing up and investing in the next generation? Look at the deepest bonds in life are formed in these spaces. They're formed in the -10 and the +10 spaces in life. One day, the next generation will tell a story. And here's my prayer. My prayer is that a big part of their story is that someone, maybe you, showed up for them in the season they needed you the most because they experienced someone greater than you. They experienced something greater than anything you had to offer. They experienced the one who could actually rescue, who could actually save, who could actually make meaning of and give purpose to and create encouragement out of any and every circumstance in life, that they encountered the life of Jesus in you, and it propelled them to ultimately experience the life that God dreamed up and designed for them from the very beginning. You wanna know one of the things that bothered me most when I was at the Princess Ball, that first Princess Ball with my daughter, was watching the number of dads around the room on their phones, hanging out with their friends, many of them trying to engage me in conversation. And I just thought, dude, I'm not here for you. I mean, I've only got a few hours at this extraordinary event in this context that somebody created. I didn't even have to do the work. Somebody set me up for success and set you up for success. Don't strike out in this moment. You've only got a small window of time. And I would love to take all the credit in the world from you. I'm not standing up here saying I'm a great dad, I'm better than those guys. Like, no, that's not true. I had an incredible model. I only had a small window. I had a much smaller window. About when I was leaving home was when I lost my dad. I was 17 years old when I lost my dad. He was 42. I turned 42 this year. And I'll just tell you, I would take the 17 years I had with my dad over the lifetimes many others that I know had with their dads or their moms. Because in those 17 years, time after time, day after day, week after week, my dad chose to be present and show up in the most significant moments in my life. So let me ask you, just to close, what's your plan? You have a financial plan? You have a career plan? What's your plan for being present with and investing in the next generation? When you show up, you may not feel equipped. You may not be perfect. You're gonna make mistakes. But if you're a follower of Jesus and you've placed your faith in him, when you show up, the presence of Jesus showed up. That is a huge deal to our Heavenly Father. Such a huge deal that he sent his son to come and be present with us. It's an extraordinary opportunity we have. The window is small. Your presence can make all the difference. Let me pray for you. God, thank you today for the people in this church, and so many that are already choosing to do this. So many that right now are showing up in the lives of the next generation in some of the different environments, small group leaders and leaders that are taking care of and pouring into and hanging out with our kids and aren't there babysitting. They're not there doing childcare. They're there to be present and showing up with your life in them to pour into our kids and into the next generation. We're so, so grateful. God, I pray that you would give us a vision to see our world differently, to see the opportunity we have to supply something for our kids, for our grandkids, for our nieces and our nephews, for the next generation, something they may not get anywhere else. I pray you'd give us a vision for showing up and being present. God, thank you for leaders in this church like Gary, who we heard the story of earlier, who not only chose to participate in a life-changing experience like that mission trip where they could spend intentional time as a family doing something that illustrated your generosity. It was a picture of your generosity toward us. But the intentional choice to be present with his family for an extended period of time and allow your life in him to shape his family and to shape his kids, to shape their lives in the future because of what you do when we show up in their lives. God, I pray nobody would leave today feeling guilty, but we'd all see an opportunity in the future. This principle is timeless, And regardless of the age of our kids, we still have time to show up in their lives and bring something that we couldn't bring on our own, that you've gifted to us by placing your life in us. And I pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.